Hello, IDLA students. This is a short little helpful video for the essay on the social contract. You've got it coming up very soon, so if you have any questions or concerns, this is going to be a great video for you. And also, if you're just looking for some extra guidance, here it is. So this is the big assignment for this lesson. So using MLA formatting, which Purdue, this link will take you to a great website. I still use it on a lot of the essays I write for university. So using MLA formatting, write a 2-page double-spaced essay answering the following questions. I shouldn't have to say this, but I feel compelled to anyway. 2-page double-spaced means size 12, either Times New Roman or Arial font or whatever, with average margin sizings, nothing fancy with it. It's 2 pages, guys. That's like 6-7 paragraphs, maybe 8, so you should be able to do it. Your essay should answer the following questions. What is the social contract? What are natural rights? What should be required of members of a political society? And what is the role of government? And what rights and protections does government provide to its citizens? You can see here it's the senior level course, so you should be able to answer these questions, to provide some good solid facts to support your assertions, organization and a clear thesis statement, free of most spelling and grammar errors. You should be able to accomplish this using a word processing software. All sources are cited using your MLA formatting, and you have a works cited page. There's a really great helpful site called Grammarly where you can sign up for a free account, and it will actually check your grammar and spelling and all of that good stuff. Again, I still use it as a university student, so it's brilliant to use. So this is what the prompt looks like. So I'm just going to go over, and I don't want you to feel like this is reductive, but I just want to go over some solid formatting tips, just because I think it's helpful and kind of nice to have those reminders. So again, I'm not trying to be insulting to you or reductive, but when you're doing your intro paragraph, it's just solid, maybe 5-6 sentences, where you have that intro sentence that might have a question or an interesting fact or some startling information, whatever. Something to get your attention of the reader, to compel that person to keep reading. A transition or explanation, this is where you can give some good background or historical information. Your main points, which again will include things like the social contract, the rights and responsibilities of political citizens, and that sort of thing. And then finally, your thesis. Remember, your thesis is the main point of this essay. So again, if we're looking back at this prompt, it needs to have something that relates to these 4 questions, whether that's be understanding government is important to participating in government, or whatever you feel is kind of a good, solid purpose for your essay. Sometimes people don't figure out their thesis until they finish their essay, and then they reread it and say, oh, okay, so this is the point I was trying to make. I find I often go back and revise my thesis after I finished my essay, just because your essay didn't go where you thought it was, so sometimes the direction kind of figures itself out as you go along. Your body paragraphs, and again, I don't want to be insulting, but it's so crucial, and I think it's something that as we become proficient essay writers, we kind of forget and get away from. But at its most basic level, your paragraphs need to start with a topic sentence. So you need to have kind of like a thesis in that way, a point to your paragraph, and it should be clear in that first sentence what the point of your paragraph is and what it is you're going to do here. So since your main points have kind of already been laid out for you in those 4 questions, you might, for your topic sentence, define what the social contract is. You might try to explain why the social contract is important. You might talk about who invented the theory of a social contract, but your topic sentence needs to be very clear, and it needs to establish the point of your paragraph. Then you'll go on to explain what it is you're trying to say with your topic sentence, and this is where you'll go on to kind of make this transition into evidence. So when you're looking for evidence, really you're just going to be explaining, citing, or quoting information. This is a great place to quote Locke or Hobbes about the social contract. Elaborate, which means you need to explain what your quote means. You can't just stick a quote in there and say, haha, I've got a quote. Explain your quote. Also, don't forget to use those in-text parenthetical citations. And then always tie it back to your thesis. Remember, an essay is almost like making a solid argument. You need to be constantly proving your thesis correct. And so that's what you need to be doing in your final paragraph, is tying your topic sentence and your thesis together nicely and in a little bow. That's how your body paragraph should, for the most part, flow. Obviously, you can kind of mix up evidence and elaboration and explanation and those sorts of things. But for the most part, I expect a solid topic sentence, a tie back to your thesis, and at least some evidence in between. You can use a little bit of anecdotal evidence, but for the most part, I'd like to see some good solid quotes from either Hobbes or Locke in this essay, or any of the other information you found from your lessons. And then finally, your concluding paragraph is almost the same thing as your intro paragraph, but turned upside down. You'll review those main points, which again are those probably going to be those 4 questions that have been asked in the prompt, your thesis, and essentially talk about how this essay has kind of proven your thesis proper or correct, a nice transition or explanation like we had in your intro, and then tying back into that nice conclusion, which usually is related to the very first sentence in your introduction. So you just kind of close with this nice book-ending idea where we started with something, we're going to finish with the same thing. Some basic tips and tricks for you. Read your essay. I know this sounds silly, but so many students, I feel like, don't go back and reread everything they've written. So read your essay, reread it again, and try rereading it out loud. I have found in my many years of essay writing that nothing is quite as helpful as reading my essay out loud. If that's embarrassing for you, or you're in a library or in a computer lab, copy and paste it into Google Translate and using English and push play, and Google Translate will read your essay to you. Sometimes this is even more helpful than reading it to yourself, because when you hear that robotic, awkward Google Translate voice reading your essay, you're going to pick up on anything strange or that sounds funny or all of that kind of odd stuff. This is also where you should check out Grammarly. It's Grammarly. It's free to sign up, and it'll run a lot of your basic grammar stuff. Please don't forget to cite your sources. Nothing is worse than getting in trouble for plagiarism when that's not what you were trying to do. You just forgot to cite your sources. So just cite them. Just don't fool around with it. Before you submit your essay, ask yourself, have I responded to the prompt? Have I answered these 4 questions? Does my thesis address these 4 questions? And I always ask myself before I turn in an essay, does this essay sound like I know what I'm talking about? And if you're not sure, you're thinking, well, then the answer is no. It doesn't sound like you know what you're talking about. And that's okay. You just need to go back and revise it. Don't be shy. Ask for help. If you're not sure and you're feeling like, well, I feel like I've done it, but, send me a rough draft. I'm happy to give you notes and to review it. Just shoot me an email with it attached, and I'll give you some feedback. And then, of course, repeat these steps as needed. So if you make any revisions, if you rewrite a paragraph or whatever, repeat this process. And never assume that your first draft is going to be the most perfect thing that you've ever produced. Some people are great at writing first drafts, some people aren't. So just don't assume that the first thing you produce is gold and you're done. If you have any questions or concerns about anything I've gone over here, if you have questions about the essay, if you want me to read a rough draft, I'm happy to do so. Just let me know. Otherwise, good luck, and I look forward to reading your work.